Mission Impossible is back for the final reckoning, and it's getting some pretty mixed reviews. I'll be honest, I'm pretty mixed myself. I feel like this movie is like so good in some aspects and then so bad in others, and so I'm just gonna provide my 2 cents on what I thought went right, what I thought went wrong, and what we could do moving forward. Everybody knows what you're getting into when you get into a Mission Impossible movie. The gadgets, the masks, the running, the camaraderie, the bonds that we make along the way, like these movies are so fun. And that brings me to the first issue of this movie. This movie is so serious, especially when it comes to the exposition. It's super ham-fisted, repetitive, and dark. Legit, a lot of the fun is gone and replaced with dread and tension. And that's not bad. It wasn't like badly done even. It's just not fun to watch sometimes. You know, this movie's set up to be this big celebration of the franchise as a whole, and so for it to take this like random dark turn, it just didn't make sense to me. I think it was a masterclass on how to build tension, and you know, some of these stunts like really had me at the edge of my seat, but I just feel like it didn't really become a Mission Impossible movie until like the second half. And I remember leaving Dead Reckoning thinking like, this movie was good, it was definitely a lot of setup, but we ended strong. You know, Ethan's got the key, we know where we're heading, the train sequence was awesome, like we're ready for the finale with this big, huge payoff. But instead, this movie decides, no, we're gonna actually do a bunch of info dumping and exposition for the whole first hour and reset up, re-raise the stakes, and re-establish everything that we just did in the first part of this film. And not only does this kill all the momentum Dead Reckoning gave us, but it also drags us into this movie. Everybody that shows up in this movie has to explain what they're doing here, how they got here, how they affect Ethan, what the plot is, what the mission is. Like, everyone's repeating the same thing over and over again, and it's just completely unnecessary. It's not that complicated for audiences to understand the plot of AI takeover, especially in this day and age. And so I feel like a lot of that time spent rehashing that could have been spent developing these characters. For example, the human villain, Gabriel. This dude had this whole flashback sequence in the first film that goes absolutely nowhere in this one. I'm not exaggerating. It goes absolutely nowhere. This guy was supposed to be the guy that created Ethan Hunt, and we literally learn nothing about him in this movie. And so he just falls flat in the most like uninspired and most unsatisfying way possible, especially for a finale of a franchise to give us our weakest villain yet. It's just like, come on, like, you know? And I think it just shows the weakness of this kind of right as we go method that Tom and McQuarrie have been using for these films thus far. And then on top of that, they want to add this like end game aspect where actually all the Mission Impossible movies are tied in. We're all leading into this like big finale, which is just clearly not true. So it leads to a lot of retconning and reintroduction of characters that felt super forced. And forced doesn't always mean bad. Some of the things that they reintroduced in this movie I think worked, but did not ever feel unforced. You know what I mean? If the choice was between retconning a bunch of shit from the other films or fleshing out the villain of this film, I think they should have fleshed out this villain. Obviously, you know, Tom Cruise is gonna crush it every time he's suiting up as Ethan Hunt. Simon Pegg as Benji back. I love Benji. Ving Rhames as Luther. I wish Luther was my therapist, low-key. Haley Atwell returns as Grace. And I feel like that's another character that they had no idea how to write for. Ilsa's barely been dead for 2 months and he's already moving on to like Grace. It just didn't sit right with me. It felt weird. I also gotta give a special shout out to Tramell Tillman. You know him from Severance as Mr. Milchick. He has a spot in this movie. I remember seeing him like in the title credits and being like, oh, I didn't know he was in this. He without a doubt got one of the biggest reactions from the audience when I was watching this movie. And honestly, he kind of carries. Like, it's like, it was so refreshing to finally get some exposition delivered with some charisma and some personality. And it's like, this was what this movie was missing the whole time. Now, I know it sounds like I'm dogging on this movie pretty hard. Despite all these flaws I mentioned, I was still very locked in for this movie. I was on the edge of my seat. I was holding my breath. My hands were sweating. The weight of the situation was like so heavy at that point that it really did add to these moments. Like, this was some beautifully made, high stakes action set pieces. And I love that Cruise and McQuarrie can flex on audiences this hard and be like, we know what we're doing, we can make these things blow your mind. And there's also this fight scene I'm not gonna spoil. It was like so satisfying to watch, but also had me drip sweating. Like, I don't know how they did it, but it was something worth the price of admission alone. And it just sucks that all these amazing moments are surrounded by crap exposition. I also thought it was weird how the movie separates Ethan from his team for like the majority of the film. And yes, it does add this level of tension to be like, yeah, no one's coming to help Ethan, but it just kind of removes the heart of these movies. And I just feel like it's like a super weird misunderstanding from the filmmakers to be like, yeah, let's remove Ethan from the people that make him more human and more grounded. And now we have to deal with Ethan on his own being this kind of like messiah figure that can only save the world by himself. One of my favorite things about the franchise is seeing Ethan's dynamic dynamic with his team. You know, the new faces, the old faces, and like taking that away from the finale just made no sense to me. In the end, this movie was a spectacle to watch. It was just surrounded by layers and layers of bad writing. There's no way around it. The movie was bloated, beautiful to watch, but sad to experience. And I probably won't go back to it as much as I will the other ones in the franchise. I think moving forward, if they decide to reboot the franchise, they should definitely scale it back down. I would like to see someone like Michael B. Jordan take on the helm of the series. He has that same star power as a younger Cruise, if not more at this point, and just have more fun with it. Bring back the espionage and the music that's like, you know, the bongos and shit. Like that's the stuff I love about this franchise. And remember that these movies are, you know, we live and die in the shadows. And let's keep it that way. Like, we save the world, no one's ever gonna know, and we just go on with our lives. And I like that. Anyway, rant over. Let me know what you think about this movie. Am I crazy? I hope I didn't sound too negative. I did have a lot of fun with this movie. It's just the things that they did wrong are so... Like, I thought we learned this by now. I thought we learned the good parts and we were gonna bring them to the next level. Instead, they replaced them, and it's just kind of heartbreaking because this is most likely the last Mission Impossible for Tom Cruise. But anyway, let me know what you guys thought down below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.